because they're like a collection of them throughout the country, what we randomly found was like people start telling us, oh, we wanted to go see your murals, and we took a side road trip to go find one of your murals, and then they explored that area and found something cool over there. So we built this kind of like wall of fame thing on our website. If you go to greetingstore.com, you click on collect, you can see anyone that's been to like 10 or more murals and they took photos in front of them, then we send them like free custom art and gifts and prints and stuff like that. And our only ask is they go and support a local business.
Welcome to the My SGV podcast. Our mission is to capture and share the stories of the people of the San Gabriel Valley. We believe our diversity is what makes the SGV great. And no matter where you're from in the San Gabriel Valley, you will feel welcome.
All right, SGVers, welcome back to another episode of the My SGV podcast. Thank you for tuning in. If you are new here, we bring you the stories of the people of the San Gabriel Valley. And if you're a returning listener, we do appreciate you spending this time with us. Well, Scott, I have spent a lot of time on Colorado Boulevard, mostly even now I travel that, from East Pasadena all the way to Old Pasadena quite often, but I had spent a lot of time there when I was going to PCC. And probably you've also spent a lot of time on that stretch of Colorado Boulevard.
Oh, yeah. It's just such not just iconic street, it's Route 66.
Sure.
Yeah, but also it's an important thoroughfare.
Absolutely.
But there's a lot of nice places, nice little restaurants or shops there that, it's just a destination.
Sure. And, I'm coming from, let's say, Sierra Madre Boulevard going down towards Orange Grove, right? Mm-hmm. And just driving that stretch, you can see all the changes and sort of your, different things that pop up, different restaurants and whatnot. And today is April 3rd, I believe, April 3rd, 2024. So if you drive down along Colorado Boulevard across the street from PCC, now you'll see this amazing mural of Pasadena. I don't know if you've had an opportunity to see it.
I don't think I have, no.
So it's across the street from PCC, and right when you look at it, I instantly feel, wow, that's definitely Pasadena. There's a picture of the city hall there, amongst other things, but the mural really captures the essence of the city. And
where is it located exactly?
I believe it's on the wall of Bubble Puff Tea, the business, which was mentioned in our SGV3. And that's actually how the artist got in contact with us, because we had a reel go out from Olivia Liu and mentioning Bubble Puff Tea as their SGV3.
But I remember the time that you saw that mural, the first time, and how you commented on it. You were really impressed by it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's a lot of art in the cities, mural arts, and, if I take the time to try and understand or learn the history of it, maybe I'll have some sort of feeling around it, right? But instantly, when you see something from your city and all the pieces that connect, or that are meaningful,
identified with everything.
Yes, and that's what really struck me about that mural specifically.
I hope that we're showing a picture of it at this point.
Oh yeah, I'm sure we can. We can. It's a beautiful mural. Well, before we get to our guest, I'd like to thank Paris Baguette for these delicious goodies here behind me for sponsoring that refreshments for our guest every week. Check them out. Paris Baguette in San Gabriel. It's on Las Tunas and Mission. So
I
thank
always
you.
like Paris Baguette Day. From where I sit, I can see the 4 boxes stacked there, and they're just filled with these beautiful creations, aren't they?
It's challenging to resist. Trust me. We have to open the box and ask the guests to choose if they would like a sweet or savory, and I'm looking at them and it just looks so good every week. Well, Scott, let's get to our guest. He is a transplant, actually, from New York to the SGV, now residing in Pasadena. He's a muralist, and his company is Greetings Tour. His name is Victor Ving. Victor, welcome to the show.
Thank
Welcome.
you. Nice to meet you guys, and glad to be here.
So you're a transplant from New York, right?
I was born and raised in New York, lived there for about 30 years, and then in 2015, 15, my wife and I took off in an RV to travel the country and paint murals for what we thought would be 1 year, and it turned into 2 or 3, and then going on about 6 years. We lived full-time in an RV, working with different communities all over the country, creating these postcard murals.
That's such a interesting and unique journey. Like, I've never heard of someone, having this as a path. It's really cool, actually. What got you involved in this from, to start with?
Well, my background, I never really even had any art school background. I went to business school in New York, and really, like, it was from doing graffiti growing up as a New Yorker. Just kind of got little gigs here and there. One of my first ones happened to be painting like a radio station, doing a mural for them for my college. Went to Brook, and things just escalated, and just started trying doing imagery. And then, by the way, all the murals are also done with spray paint still to this day. So just picked it up on my own and just learned from other artists who along the way who've helped out.
So was your artistic start just in graffiti, like the sort of illegal style, like going in and putting it on the public places?
Yeah. Had my fair share of troubles growing up and kind of grew out of it. But, a lot of people that still work with me today, they all come from that same background. And
wow,
yeah.
There's a lot to dig into here. I'm really fascinated by what I've heard so far. So I know you have your question you need to ask, and then I want to get right into it.
Yeah. I mean, so I sort of already answered it. Like, I always ask, what's your connection to the San Gabriel Valley? But you've chosen to reside here. Is that right?
In 2020, we due to the pandemic, and we also, but prior to the pandemic, we chose to settle here in the LA area. We didn't know where yet. We were looking northeast LA and slowly made our way east and ended up in Pasadena. So we're in northwest Pasadena now. Absolutely love it here. I couldn't have picked a better place, to be honest.
Is there a reason why you chose Pasadena in particular?
To be honest, we were putting in offers at a crazy time to houses, and it just so happened we were looking at one, and that's kind of how we ended up here, by chance. But
I see. Well, Scott's dying to dig into some burning questions that he's got.
Well, yeah, you've just raised a lot of things that piqued my curiosity. First of all, you've settled in what I consider to be one of the finest cities in the world. Quite honestly, a world-class city, which is Pasadena. But you came from my favorite city in the world, New York City. Where did you grow up?
In New York, I grew up in Bayside. I actually spent a lot of my youth going to like Flushing, which to me is like the New York version of the San Gabriel Valley.
Right,
here.
Yeah, very Chinese.
Yeah.
Are you Chinese ethnic?
Yeah, I'm Chinese. My mom's from Hong Kong, dad's from Guangzhou.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, so you grew up in Queens, and what was your life like there? Were your parents immigrants?
Yes. My sister and I, first generation born here. The typical kind of story of trying to fit in, right?
Bayside is not, to me, a Chinese area.
There's a lot of Koreans in Bayside. But yes, I did also have a lot of Chinese friends growing up. It was pretty diverse, and that's what I love about Queens, too. Like, you take the 7 train from Flushing to the city, you literally go through every ethnic type of neighborhood possible, So,
right, yeah. But growing up there, and then you went to college, so you lived there for a good part of your life.
Yes, about 30 years. And, I never went away to college. College was in the city, so I was still, in the beginning, commuting almost like an hour and a half from my home into the city. And then,
so you worked a regular job? What you might call a regular job?
Yeah, when I graduated, I lived downtown in Chinatown. Like 2010, I moved there, and I got a email marketing job in the financial district. So it was like a Clark Kent lifestyle where I would, paint graffiti and then go to work 9 to 5. And
so where would you paint graffiti? I mean, throughout Manhattan or throughout the whole city or in your local neighborhood there?
pretty much all over the city. And to be honest, that I went out, even as a New Yorker, there weren't many, but we went outside of the city, outside of the country. We would travel all over the world painting.
A group of you would do this graffiti then?
Yeah. I mean, it's a whole I'm sure we're going to have a whole entire podcast just about the subculture
I
of
guess
graffiti.
That's something that
it's not like gang-related, tagging or nothing like that. It is all lettering based, but
So you would paint letters. What did they mean? I mean, what would be a typical kind of painting that you would do?
It's just like stylized lettering, and to this day, I still incorporate lettering into all the pieces I do with the murals these days. So
yeah.
I mean, it was really kind of like a kid game, like fame game, really. That's at the heart of it.
But then you set out in an RV. What put that idea in your mind?
Yeah, so I'll go back a bit. So when I was working the 9 to 5, my buddy and I opened an art gallery in my neighborhood in Chinatown. We knew nothing about this business. We just jumped right into it thinking, oh, how hard could it be? Just hang up some art and sell some art. But quickly learned that it was not that easy to do. And, we could get the artists and the art up, but selling art is a whole different world. It's just connections with a lot of wealthy people. And but out of that, we grew a huge community, and people started coming into the gallery to buy graffiti. Oh, and sorry, a lot of artists we work with all had a background in graffiti art. But we're like, oh, none of the art is graffiti. It's like they come from that background, but they do fine art now. And then we realized there was a void of no company that has graffiti art services. This existed in the UK, but the US never had anything like that. So we kind of evolved the gallery into a mural agency. And I was doing that for a bit.
So there's a difference between a mural and graffiti art, I would think.
Yeah, I think by definition, graffiti is illegally done without permission, and it's really people's tags, how stylized you get it, how big you can get it. Murals, obviously, legally done and more imagery based. You can do a mural with spray paint, with brush, or whatever, so the medium doesn't really matter. And especially now, it's funny because, and I could get more into this, of how we evolved. So I had the mural agency, and I was able to, and I quit my job at the time to focus on this mural agency full time, and I wasn't tied to New York anymore. My wife actually just got laid off, and we were like, why don't we take this project on the road and try to do it? And sorry, I kind of missed the whole thing. So there's multiple elements. There's the mural agency, and then I also had the greetings tour, which is what I'm focused on now, is more like community art. So how that started is there was a wall in Chinatown where I lived. I saw it for many years, and it did have illegal graffiti on it. It would get painted over, and I wanted to do something different on it. And I did a greetings from Chinatown mural on it, unconsciously referencing that large letter postcard style from the mid-century, where it's greetings from, big letters and images inside the letters. And when I did that, I kind of, it was eye-opening to me because I saw how the community reacted to it. And
that was a hook, wasn't it?
Yeah, and that's
greetings
it.
from. Yeah, that makes sense.
Right. And
But who paid you to do your murals?
So in the beginning, I wasn't really concerned. I mean, just like graffiti, right? I dedicated so much of my life to just creating this artwork that I never financially benefited from. So that wasn't even in my mind at the time. I wasn't thinking about that. For example, the Chinatown one, we had some local sponsors within the letters. We had Tsingtao beer, all relevant to the Chinatown community, and a local dim sum shop that was very popular, Namwa, and the Chinatown ice cream factory. They all kind of contributed to help us basically cover supply costs to make it happen. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and we also have a spray paint sponsor too. So.
Well, it seems to me that hook of greetings from was a great business decision, wasn't it?
Yes, and we didn't necessarily consider it a quote unquote business at the time. It was more a passion project, like outside of the mural agency. And it was something that we saw really like work in New York and get people interested in what we were doing who otherwise would have never looked if I was just doing like a tag or some graffiti.
Yeah.
And, you know, old Chinese guys walking up to me, you know, commenting they would have never cared otherwise. And it was great to just like involve the community, you know.
More of a spark of inspiration maybe than a business hook, I suppose.
I'm curious, like my thoughts of people who do graffiti here on the West Coast were more associated with like gangs. You know, that, I mean, that's my ignorance here, right? I would see that. And sometimes I would see really talented art, but I couldn't decipher what it was. So maybe from your eye, it's more of just an expression of, is it lettering or is it just a way to show your artistic style out there?
It's mainly lettering based, and it's just their names, you know. Like we're all given a name when we're born, but they kind of create your own identity. It's just how much you could get the name up, or you know, how stylized you can get it. There's like within the graffiti world, there's like so many different you know, subcultures that exist within it. You know, people that are just into painting freight trains, or you know, doing big walls. And
how did you get introduced to it? Like, what was the genesis of your interest in graffiti art?
The time I grew up, and I guess being from the city of New York, it's like I remember even in 5th grade, we all had these tags, you know, everyone would write on each other's book bags. And it just, a lot of my friends grew out of it, and I just stuck to it.
Were you able to get access to spray paint at that time? Or like, were you, because I think here you have to be 18 or something to buy it.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe back
some
then it
places
wasn't
even like 21, which is
oh really?
Wow. But I mean, yeah, friends' garages. We had some leftover cans. That's how I started, I guess.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Is the mural that you saw, Russell, in Pasadena, is it a greetings from?
Well, I'll let Victor.
Yeah. So that it is part of our greetings tour project, but it's a style that we're not the most known for. The one we're most known for is that like vintage postcard style. We have one of those in Altadena on Lake.
Oh yeah,
on the grocery outlet up there.
Oh, on the grocery outlet.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's the style we're more known for, because within the letters we can incorporate a lot of images the ideas all come from the community. This one, the one we did on Bubble Puff and Tea across from PCC. That one is
I see. It's got Pasadena across the
yeah, that's
top.
like more of like an Art Deco style that we're experimenting with, because we're finally like local to a place where we call home now, and like to try out different styles here. And yeah.
Well, how many murals do you have throughout Pasadena or this area?
Oh, I have a lot of murals. A lot of them are like commercial murals, but as far as like the greetings tour project, we have 3 in Altadena, 2 in Pasadena, and then coming up we're trying to do an official greetings from Pasadena one. Yeah.
Oh yeah?
And we've been in talk with like the city of Azusa, or else Monrovia, about doing some stuff.
At present, outside of Pasadena, do you have other murals?
Oh yeah, greetings tour project. We have about 65 murals in counting across about 28 states right now.
Can you talk about your life in the RV and traveling across the country? What was that like?
Sure. The RV life was a huge learning experience for me, being like a city kid. My wife, Lisa, she grew up, one of her first jobs was actually washing RVs. Her family had a RV dealership. So she grew up in Ohio and knew a lot more about that life. And for us, it's like when we started, it wasn't, you know how like van life got really big during the pandemic. For us, it was just an economical way of being able to travel and not having to scramble looking for places, being able to carry supplies with us. Our plan was, after that first year, was to just sell the RV. But we just kept going and realized quickly, well, number one, we had like a crash course on the road, trying to live in an RV full time in like cities. You know, one of the first murals we did on the road was in Chicago. And, you know, you realize like an urban environment isn't really meant for that. You know, out here you see a lot of RVs and people living in because they have no other means, and they end up, you know, having to live in an RV. But we kind of felt out of place, you know, in cities in the RV. But on the road, there could be really glamorous times, beautiful scenery, and then some other nights we're in like Walmart parking lots, Yeah.
How many years did you spend in RV life?
About a little over 5 years, like full time in the RV. So.
And you would travel from city to city and do your greetings tour and paint a mural?
Yes. Yeah. So when you mentioned before, like who funded these, like in the beginning, we were just doing them all out of pocket. And then slowly but surely, some cities started reaching out to us. So like we would go paint a mural in the city, but on the way kind of explore other places and see where, if it's a community we really want to paint one in, and then make these connections all over the country. And then on our way back, we paint one in these other places. So.
What's the lifespan of a mural?
That's a good question, because now we have some murals going on a decade plus, and at the time we didn't really think about the archival qualities of mural, whereas now, the paint is only as good as the structure you're putting it on. So we go above and beyond to like prep the wall and power wash and patch and make sure everything is very well prepared before even putting the paint on. But and we now even coat it with like something called like mural shield, which is like a UV protectant, and also like anti-graffiti coating.
Anti-graffiti coating.
Yeah.
So what does that mean? Like you could just wash it off after?
Yeah, it's like a sacrificial coating. So if someone tags it, which surprisingly has never really happened to any of our murals, very, very minor, probably here and there. But yeah, you can wash it off and then just reapply the coating on it. And that one we did on Colorado has that product on it.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Victor, how does it feel to stand back and look at a completed mural?
It's a great feeling. I mean, for me, it's not even the great feeling that I get is when we encounter and see the public interacting with them, and that makes me feel good that it's like meaningful to someone else,
Tell me the story of the Pasadena mural, the one we're talking about on Colorado. Who came up with the idea? How did it come to life? How long did it take to create it?
So since we moved here, I've been scouting for the perfect wall for the greetings from Pasadena style mural. So that was one of the locations I had in mind, but then I realized like it wasn't great for people to get a photo in front of them because there's a street was right there. So I had that wall. The property owner was open to doing it for a while, and then I had that other style, the Art Deco style that I've been wanting to experiment with. So I finally reached back out and decided to do something there. And mainly it was to actually raise awareness for this upcoming Greetings from Pasadena mural that we plan on doing.
Oh, the one that's not done yet.
Yeah. So we're right now next to that mural, we even have a banner up for people to like scan a QR code and they can vote on what Pasadena means to them and what they want to see.
So this one is kind of a teaser,
you could kind of say that, but it's also like a different style too,
Mm-hmm. So when did you create it, and how long did it take you to actually do the work?
Oh man, I can't remember when I painted it. It was right before, I want to say like November, December of last year. It took about a week, mainly because, dad duties going, and it's great being local finally, right? I don't have to do it all within a certain amount of time. So a lot of half days, but it took about a week to paint.
You do it yourself?
Yeah, that one was all myself. Because again, we basically donated these with the exception of some support from like Visit Pasadena helped contribute to some supply costs, and the Pasadena Fine Arts Club too. So.
And you sign off on it? Is your signature?
Yeah. That we have like a @greetings tour, our social on the bottom. And I think another value of our murals is we try to, because they're like a collection of them throughout the country. What we've randomly found was like people started telling us, oh, we wanted to go see your murals, and we took a side road trip to go find one of your murals, and then they explored that area and found something cool over there. So we built this kind of like wall of fame thing on our website. If you go to greetingstore.com, you click on collect, you could see anyone that's been to like 10 or more murals and they took photos in front of them, then we send them like free custom art and gifts and prints and stuff like that. And our only ask is they go and support a local business when they're around. So.
Oh, those are some really genius ideas. That's really cool.
Yeah, it's like a nationwide mural hunt, So, yeah. So we got a guy that's been to over, like 46 murals now. Like, it's crazy. Wow. Yeah, they're putting in the miles. Yeah.
Wow. Well, Victor, we ask each guest to bring an item of significance with them. What did you bring with you today?
Yeah. So this is Holly. It's a little vintage hula dancer. So obviously I couldn't bring in the RV. Okay. And I was thinking, okay, what's significant?
Oh, do you still have your RV?
Yeah, we still have the RV. It's in storage. But we take it out for short trips around the area. Okay. And first of all, like, one of my lessons from RV life is just living so minimally, because we couldn't really literally fit much in there. And so it was really hard for me to think about an item of significance, because to be quite honest, even if I lost this today, it wouldn't matter so much to me. But Holly sat on our dashboard. This is the first time we've taken her out of the RV in a decade, really.
Can you describe it for the listening audience?
Yeah, it's a vintage hula dancer. It's like made in Japan. It was big in like the Hawaii tourism era of the mid-century. She's pretty faded, grass skirts coming apart, but
it's it wobbles, right?
Yeah,
when you drive.
Yeah. It's become a,
Where did you get it?
These, right?
Yeah.
I think I got this probably on eBay at the time, way back when.
You bought it for your trip, or?
Yeah, just some decor in the RV. But we realized, like, we've seen everything, all the states, and out the window of our RV, but she's always been looking in at us, watching us evolve and change. So
cool.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you for bringing that in.
Oh, also, sorry, another reason too. One of our goals or reasons why we got her in the first place was after the end of the first year, one of our goals was to move and settle in Hawaii, which didn't happen. Obviously, I'm here, but it's just a reminder that your goals can evolve and that's okay. And what's funny is sometimes I take the 210 and I'm looking out the window on a foggy day. I look up at the mountains and it literally looks like Hawaii. So here we are.
Do you ever feel like you'd like to hit the road again?
I would absolutely love to do some shorter trips and bring our son when he gets a bit older. But in terms of like the full-time RV lifestyle, I think we've done it. And I mean, I'd love to do it in another country. I'd love to go do it through Europe. We actually rented an RV in New Zealand for our honeymoon and did that for a month.
I'm really curious about your relationship during that time. And I remember when I was in the military and I was doing training for, let's say, like a month or even 45 days. And I was struck with this fact that I'm spending like 20 hours a day sometimes with the same people. And I never get separation from them. Like that's really unique, right? And you really get to see them in all their best and all their worst, and you can't escape them. Even in a marriage, you may not experience that. You may go to work and you have this time away from each other. But I remember that was really unique. I was like, I'm with these guys so long, right? But you have experienced it with your wife for years, and you're still married, and you have a young child. What was that like during that time?
When we left, we were not married. We were actually only dating for about a year, which is crazy, right? For someone to jump into an RV together to live full time. Although size of an RV, New York apartment, not much different, right? So,
yeah.
But that's actually one of the most common questions we get asked, like, how do you guys deal with it? And I don't know, it was fine for us, and clearly it worked out, and we're together. Even to this day, I think a lot of people had issues when COVID hit, right? And they were like stuck in the home. And for us, it was like nothing new to us. We were always together full time. And I mean, you see, I don't know how else to answer.
How did you map out your routes and so on? I have a friend, a very close friend, who's been living in an RV for, I'll bet you 7 years by now, at least, with his partner, and they're always on the road because they have to be. They can't stay. They stay in places like Thousand Trails, where they have a time limit. You know,
Right.
they can't stay or maybe you pay more, you can stay, you know, forever. I don't know. But they're always on the road, because the longest I remember them being anywhere is like 3 to 6 months.
Right.
And then they've got to pack up and
Yeah.
go to the next stop.
I mean, even that 3 to 6 months would sound like an eternity to us.
Yeah, you
we
would
would be
stay
like
like
maybe
a week.
weeks. Yeah.
Yeah.
If we're in town to do a mural, we stay maybe like a month or so in the area.
Was
but-
it easy to find parks where you could stay?
So, I mean, that was a huge RV lesson too. It's like the economy of it. And we realized that we have a home on wheels. Like, why do we have to pay to stay? You know, there's like BLM land all over the country, or free places to stay that are beautiful too.
Oh, yeah.
So we
right.
would just go to campsites, you know, get water, dump, whatever, and then keep moving. We would do that maybe like once a week. So.
Mhm.
But yeah, it was. The other thing is, like, you realize just commuting to work in a city, you're going back and forth every day. You could go twice the distance in RV because you're always home. You don't have to keep going back to where you were,
Yeah.
so you can keep going.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we've been to all the states, and you know, even through Canada. Never drove down to Mexico.
Oh, you've been
yeah,
up to Alaska?
Yeah. Alaska was probably my favorite. Spent a whole summer there in 2018. So.
Oh, yeah.
Did you drive the RV across
yeah.
Canada and then onto Alaska? I mean,
We
obviously
went,
you had to.
we went up through Washington and all the way up. Yeah.
Wow.
But yeah, it was a great time. My favorite time, honestly, on the road.
Did you do any murals in Canada?
Yeah, we have one in Anchorage, Alaska. It's a Greetings from Alaska mural. So.
In Canada?
In Canada, no. Canada, we had a mural in Toronto at one point, but it was a weird one. It was like a collab with like Lululemon, so it was like in their store. Not technically public art. So, yeah.
I see. Wow. And it seems like there must be so much logistical problems to have to, you know, be figuring out all the time where you're going to go, where you're going to stay, how you're going to get fuel, when's the next city, like who is handling all that?
Lisa and I, we kind of just, I don't know, we just came up with, a lot of it was based on where we had to be for a mural that was like funded by a city, because obviously we have to make some money on the road. And that determined our travel, and we tried to like do a lot of nature. Lisa's also like a photographer, and she was working in like the fashion industry in New York, and obviously on the road you can do that. So she shifted her focus more into like beautiful like landscape photos. So we would hit a lot of national parks along the way. And again, you can stay in a lot of places near there for free. You don't have to pay for campsites. And So there's a lot of like beautiful, desolate, nature, and then going right into like urban cities. So.
Oh. Well, Victor, I want to learn more about the process of thinking behind a mural before. I'm sure you don't just go there and start and take a week to paint it. So I want to get into that. But before that, let's take a quick break and we'll be right back.
Sometimes, even the best of us can slip up. That's why the law offices of Scott Wormuth are here to pick you back up again.
And while they strive to get you the biggest compensation possible, oh my gosh!
Their main concern is your health and recovery. They work closely with doctors and insurance companies to make sure you get the proper medical treatment.
Initial consultations are free, so give them a call.
At the law offices of Scott Wormuth, we're with you all the way.
I'm Scott Wormuth. We've been fighting for your rights for more than 40 years.
All right, we're back with Victor. Victor, before the break, you were talking about traveling to Alaska. Your favorite, you said. And I've been to Alaska, and I really want to go back. I really want to take my family there and explore more of Alaska. Such an amazing place. Huge.
Yeah, I agree. I definitely want to go back.
Well, before we move on, Victor, when we come back from the break, we like to ask questions from this box of cards called Icebreakers. They're just a way for the audience to get to know all of us a little bit more, and you can choose to answer it or not. So here we go. Would you rather explore space or the ocean?
I would say space,
Okay.
but as long as I have a way to come back.
Yeah.
By RV.
As I thought about
Yeah.
this question, I was like, well, yeah, the time matters, right? So let's say you could have any vehicle to go, like you
Right.
can, travel as you do on Earth. Space, huh?
Yeah, I think it's the next frontier, So
Okay. And what about you, Scott?
I would say the ocean. it's funny you just said the next frontier, but in a way the ocean is too, completely mainly undiscovered, I think. But the other thing about it that is attractive to me is that it's a limited space, so that you maybe can discover it a little more easily. But yeah, I would say ocean.
Right after you said that, I recently just had the same conversation with my wife. I'm like, you got like Elon spending all this money to go to Mars, but like, look at all this ocean. Like we could build a whole civilization in there.
Yeah, right.
I too would like to explore the ocean. I've always had a fascination with the ocean and the creatures there. Reading books when I was younger, and now my youngest, they have bath toys, right, like of sea creatures. And then we found this set of deep sea creatures, of the like anglerfish and all these like fish that look terrifying with all these teeth. And it's the deep sea is something
that sounds
really
scary.
fascinates.
Deep sea creatures.
Yeah,
Sounds
they
like
just
a
look.
horror movie.
Oh yeah.
Just make sure you got a good, legit sub before you go.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, what would you rather explore, the ocean or space? Let us know in the comments, and we'll share that on a future episode. So, Victor, I want to get back to your thought process. Like, let's say you find Pasadena's the wall that you want to put this on, and I hear that you're getting inspiration from the community, but how does it formulate in your mind and then finally, crystallize into something that you're actually going to do?
So with all the murals we've done over time, we came up with like a formula, which is because like in a lot of larger cities, you can't fit everything into one piece of artwork. Everyone's always going to be like, oh, what about this and that? But we try to just hit an element of like a landmark, element of like history, culture, element of nature. And then when possible, a lot of times we do a collab with the local artist. Here in this case, I am the local artist, but other cities will kind of give a letter for a local artist to do their artwork in, and then they can help maintain it when we're gone too. So, but yeah, and then here for the upcoming Pasadena one, we're actually, like I mentioned before, we have like an online page where people could submit ideas and vote, and then we kind of tally up the most common ideas and put our little spin to it.
So once you've collected all these ideas and you, let's say you have all those pieces, those elements of what you want to draw, do you see it, or do you sketch it first, or like how do you get from that to actually doing it?
Yes, so we design all digitally on the computer. A lot of it is kind of just, if you look at some of our sketches, it looks like a cut and pasty, thing, and then the art happens on the wall. But previously, after the design, when we were on the road, a lot of times we would just project it on the wall to get the rough sketch up. And then now that we have like a home base, home studio, which is really just the garage, but we do a process called pouncing, which is the same method that old billboard painters used to use, and it involves like this old ancient electro pounce machine that like shocks the paper and creates tiny little holes, and then you just hit it with chalk, and then you get the design transferred onto the wall at the scale you want it to. So,
wow.
yeah.
Really? That's
how
cool.
they do those giant like hand painted billboards you see around like downtown and Venice and stuff like that.
Really?
Yep.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's fascinating. I never knew that.
Yeah. And I've shocked myself with that thing. It literally like creates like a little like spark on the paper.
Wow.
Yeah.
I've heard you mention assigning letters to artists. Mm-hmm. So the Pasadena mural that I saw, which Russell showed us on his phone, that you said is Art Deco style.
Yes.
So is the other style where you've just got the letters of the city, or
yeah,
I'm trying to
it's
think that.
I can kind of show you an example.
Yeah,
but
right.
it's once you see it, you'll recognize the style.
They're like from postcards.
But it's like these vintage postcards where it's like big letters, and inside the letters there's different images in each letter.
Oh, right, I see.
So this one we're looking at
Yeah.
one that says like greetings from Bend, Oregon, and like the N is by local artist team.
Wow,
so,
that's beautiful.
Yeah.
That one, Bend, Oregon.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a beautiful mural.
Thank you.
And where in Bend is it?
That's just right downtown. I mean, they're not. It's not too big of a city. So
Yeah. Wow, that is really nice looking.
Wow, if I'm a business in the city, I want that on my wall, or somewhere very close to it at least, Because that's going to draw a lot of people there, I would imagine.
Yeah, I mean, they kind of turn into landmarks in its own, but we also want to be very careful in that we don't commercialize these too much. You know, a lot of times, you know, business, we ask them if we can paint a mural there. They're going, oh, can you put our name in there? But I was like, okay, what does your business have to do with all of Pasadena? You know?
How did you come up with that idea of drawing from the, you know, the postcards? Was that your idea?
Yes, and I would say like the idea has been copied. We've done the most those style of large letter postcard murals, I'd say, out of anybody, and it's been copied a lot. But personally, I did it because I got sick of, like I said before with graffiti, writing my same name again and again and again. Yeah. I like the challenge of like trying to do different images. Like I painted the most random things in these letters that have to do with the place I'm painting them in. Mm-hmm. But yeah, it was just like a challenge too. And at first it wasn't even that photorealistic, and it just started getting more and more.
Well, you have to get to know the history of the city and the important, you know, landmarks and so on.
Yes. And it's, I would say the design process takes much longer than the painting of the mural. The painting of the mural, to be quite honest, is like the easy part, but it's like working with the community and figuring out what makes most sense to put in there. That stuff sometimes can take years, and even this upcoming Pasadena one, you know, we started a few years ago, and still trying to figure out what exactly to put in there.
Wow.
Yeah.
Do you envision continuing this indefinitely, or is there like an end to this for you?
One of our initial goals was to have one in every state, but then we kind of just came up with that at the time. It's like, okay, that's great. You have a mural in every state, but what value does that bring to others? And now, I mean, I would love to keep going, and I would love for it to continue on its own and even go international with it one day. But, you know, I've got to the point where we've been able to build a team of really trusted artists who've helped me out a lot over the years. And you know, I trust them because it's really tough for me to travel these days, you know, just leaving the family for too long. So obviously all this involves travel because you can only paint so many in one city. And yeah, I would love to just keep going as long as possible.
How cool would that be to be international, like doing it in different cities around the world?
We have done some on islands. We've done like Bermuda, we have one, and St. Lucia, we have one. So I would love to do, you know, Europe, Japan would be a great place I would love to do one.
Is there a favorite or most memorable mural that you've painted?
I would say, like I said previously, Alaska. Just
that
never thought I would paint a mural in Alaska. And then because that was one of our goals. We're like, oh, we would love to paint one in Alaska, and couldn't believe we made it happen. And then we're like, okay, what after that? We're going to paint one in Hawaii, and then we ended up painting one in Hawaii right after that. And I guess that one was memorable too because we painted it on the ground. It was meant to be viewed from above at a resort. So it's huge. It's like the size of, bigger than like a basketball court. It says greetings from Hawaii. So,
wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Have you ever received a response that was unfavorable after you put a mural? Yes.
And so one of the big issues we would run into on the road is the fact that we aren't quote unquote local. They're like, oh, why didn't they have a local artist do this? And, you know, our response at the time is like, where are we, you know, sure, we still pay taxes in New York. We don't live in New York anymore. Like we're local to everywhere. And I think it's a common thing because what we do is in the public eye. So like everyone thinks maybe like their tax dollars are going to this thing, or which sometimes it might be if it's like a public art project, but most of the time it's coming from grants filtered down to the local level. But that's one of the reasons why we started inviting local artists to come collaborate with us, because involving them as much as possible. We've worked with a lot of indigenous artists, and I mean that's as local as you could get. You know, they're from this land first. But yeah, that's kind of a common, I don't want to say complaint, but like everywhere you go, there's always that comment about locals, you know. But for me, it's like, how's that fair? Like you're telling me that a local artist from your city is not allowed to go elsewhere, you know, to make a living. So,
are you reaching out to the local artist, or do they sort of hear about it and reach out to you?
We try to reach out to local art, and a lot of times there's still somewhat of a connection to the graffiti world. Like a lot of these artists we find somehow happen to be a friend of a friend in that world, because a lot of them move on to become sign painters or muralists as well. Yeah, and a lot of times we did one in Oxford, Mississippi, where the city kind of recommended the local artist, and he was amazing to work with, and it was great to build friendships that way too. So, yeah.
You exclusively do spray paint, is that right?
Yeah, I'd say about 90% spray paint. Like a lot of the blocked out background colors are regular like Sherwin-Williams paint, and then the details, which honestly doesn't even make sense sometimes, is spray paint. We have like little like stencil caps to get really fine detail. Yeah.
Well, the last final question I have for you is what are your thoughts on that LA building that was recently in the news?
I'll be honest, I'm like, so many people have asked about this. I'm like, I mean, it's funny to me because people complained about, if you took that building and you turned the graffiti horizontally, there's so many places in LA with just as much of a graffiti problem, but just because it's in the view. I mean, the building itself is an eyesore, so it's like they're just putting paint on it, so yeah, I don't know.
Have you seen that in the news, Scott?
Yeah,
it's like national news, like global news.
Yeah. And they just gave them so much publicity, right?
Yeah, and that's funny because they made it an attraction by covering it so much in the news. So
yeah.
And they're spending like a couple $1 million to remove it and trying to build.
And what they should do is put that money into tearing down the building.
Exactly. Yeah.
And when I saw it, it wasn't like it was the first or second or third one. Like the whole thing was already filled.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, Victor, we're going to move on to the final segment of the show where we get to know the things that you like to do or see in the San Gabriel Valley. Victor, this is what we call the SGV3, and we ask you to share your 3 favorite or most memorable places or experiences in the San Gabriel Valley. So what would be number 1?
Okay, so I thought a lot about this, and my answers, just keep in mind, are coming from someone who's pretty new to the community. I moved here in 2020, so and the first one, I don't even technically know if this is in the SGV technically, but it would be Mount Wilson. I mean, you can see the San Gabriel Valley, but I don't know if it's in the mountains technically.
They're in the San Gabriel Mountains.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I didn't really know about it, and just coming here, going up there and being able, because I love nature and city, and being able to see without like a very touristy feel of like something like Griffith or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I even read randomly, and like there was like a Reddit thing where someone was like, well, the last thing you would do if you could do anything in LA, if you had one last day, and somehow the top answer was going up to Mount Wilson.
Wow.
Yeah,
okay.
It's kind of crazy. I've always wanted to go up there at night. I haven't had a chance to yet, but I've heard great things. Yeah.
Have you only drove it, or have you ever hiked it?
I haven't hiked it yet either, because I don't even know, haven't had the time to do that, but I would love to do that. Lisa was just talking about doing that.
Mm-hmm. Did you guys get to see inside the observatory?
Yeah. We went into the telescopes. And
Is that all open to the public?
Yes.
yeah, I think a certain time in the summertime, right? I think it's closed in the winter. Plus the fact that I literally look up at our front door at it every day. So,
Did you know that there are 3 observatories here? Not in the Southern California area.
so there's that one. It's Griffith, right? And what's the?
Monterey Park.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. At Garvey Ranch Park.
Okay. My parents actually moved here to Monterey Park, so I'm going to check that out.
Yeah, I think it's off Orange Boulevard or Orange Boulevard, Orange Street. I don't know, but yeah, sort of going up the hill, and there's
I know people have talked about that before.
Yeah. And what's the second one?
So this one also a weird answer probably, but meaningful to me. But it's literally my home. I haven't had a place to call home, for so long, and I genuinely just love to be there, and it's a place that's sorry people can't go visit, but it's in Northwest Pasadena, and I love just everything about it. So
yeah, and this is where you'll raise your family.
Yeah. So it's a whole new chapter in my life, and I'm definitely happy to be there and plan to be there for quite some time. So.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And what would be a third?
And then the third, and also I forget that you said experiences. I should have thought of some experiences, because places I honestly didn't get to explore too much, with the pandemic happening, and then now I'm just so busy.
Sure.
But by my house, Roma Market, have you been there?
Oh, it's an Italian market.
Yes. Long running business, is like a 80-year-old owner, Rosario, is there every day, and they have like something called like the sandwich that you can get there. It's like wrapped in like pink paper that's very simple, just meat and cheeses. But I just like that it's a small business that's been successful so many years, and sandwiches are consistent. It's not like the most amazing sandwich you've had, but it's very consistent, and I like that there's no crazy lines or anything like that. So,
Market?
Roma, R-O-M-A, yeah, Roma.
Roma Market.
Yeah, it's on lake and mountain.
Okay.
Yeah, Pasadena. Yep.
I see that all the time when we drive up to the hike. It's on the east side of lake.
Yeah, northeast side of lake. Yeah.
Yeah.
And there was one time we saw a line. So we just happened upon this place. We didn't hear about it from anybody because it's like in my neighborhood. But there was one time I think it got featured in something or other, and we did see a line. We're like, the heck's going on here? But now it died down, and simple sandwiches.
Awesome. Well, Victor, thank you so much for coming on the show and sharing your story with us. If people want to get in touch with you or support what you do, what's the best way to do that?
Yeah, our social, everything's Greetings Tour, greetingstour.com, and @greetingstour on Instagram. And yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you again, Victor, for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Definitely appreciate it. Well, there you go. Another episode in the books for you. Hope you enjoyed that. I certainly enjoyed learning about an artist who's very obviously very passionate about his work, but just to hear his journey. What I was struck by the most is his very sort of laid back demeanor, but there's so many complicated things that he has to do, and to set up the logistics, to move across the country, to be in an RV. There's so much about that. I mean, I'm thinking about that is very challenging, but there's this way about him that just is continuing to move forward that I was really impressed with. Definitely go check out his work on Colorado and other places if you get a chance. Well, if you enjoy this type of content, please consider subscribing to the show. You can check out our full back catalog of episodes on our website at mysgv.net. Don't forget to check out our store there. You can check out our MySGV gear. And until next week, we'll see you then.
Thank you for joining us on the MySGV podcast. Check out more of our content on our website, mysgv.net. This show was produced by Russell Mono and edited by Victoria Allers of Kind Monster Productions. If you'd like to join us next week as we capture and share more stories from our diverse community, feel welcome.
Nice mother. No, kind mother.